Welcome to Habeas Treasures, where I try to decipher this book, There's Treasure Inside by Jon Collins-Black, in order to find one of the 5 hidden treasures. On today's episode, I'll continue my breakdown of the Pokemon Box chapter, and specifically, why I think the Sulphur Springs that made the French Lick and West Baden Springs hotels popular in the early 1900s are clues that can point us to where the treasure is hidden. Let's begin. On an earlier video, I explained why I think the author uses the phrase, "I just smiled and feigned relief," to reference the fake healing properties of the spring water that brought guests to the French Lick Resort and the West Baden Springs Hotel in the early 1900s. The spring water at both hotels originates from an underground river called the Lost River that flows through southern Indiana. The water was so popular that both hotels decided to bottle it and sell it under their own brands. The French Lick Hotel called their water Pluto Water after the Roman god of the underworld, while the West Baden Springs Hotel named their water Sprudel Water after the German word meaning bubble water. In an earlier video, I explained why I believe the missing bubbles around the Froakie's neck and the added water droplet on his chest are clues that could mean bubble water or sprudel. The French Lick Hotel had an enormous amount of success selling their Pluto Water nationwide. The high magnesium content of the water made it the perfect laxative. Pluto Water was marketed with this advertising slogan, "When nature won't, Pluto will," because it was a great cure for constipation. The bottle featured a picture of Pluto, the god of the underworld, shown here. I find it interesting, and maybe intentional, that the Pluto mascot looks a lot like the hidden figure in the overexposed picture at the end of the Pokemon chapter. Up until now, I thought that the figure was a Mewtwo Pokemon, but the tail looks too thin, more like the tail of the Pluto mascot. Building off this idea, maybe one of the reasons that the author can't remember taking the photo is due to the Pluto underworld connection. Here's what I mean. In Roman and Greek mythology, the underworld has multiple rivers. One of the rivers, called the River Lethe, makes you forget. This might explain his confusion, especially if he stopped for a drink. Each hotel operated multiple springs. The West Baden Springs Hotel had 4 springs, all named after Roman gods. In the classic early 1900s marketing scheme, the hotel decided to only use odd numbers to label their springs so that it would appear that they had more of them than they really did. Here's a list of the springs. Number 1, Hygeia. Number 3, Apollo. Number 5, Neptune. And 7, Sprudel. Now, while researching the hotel, I came across a PBS documentary about the early 2000s restoration of the hotel and the hotel grounds. This was when Indiana Landmarks partnered with a local billionaire who spent hundreds of millions of dollars to save the hotel. Listen to this part of the documentary.
The outbuildings have all been restored on the exterior but left as is on the interior, with the exception of Hygeia, one of the Springs buildings, and that was a slightly more elaborate tiled and building with stained glass windows, so that building, the interior was restored as well.
I found it interesting that only one of the springs was able to be fully restored. This reminded me of a line in the Pokemon chapter that reads, "Oddly, only one picture was preserved well enough to make any sense out of it." This fits with the odd number springs, or wells, at West Baden, and only the number 1 Hygeia spring was fully restored or preserved. And the fact that the hotel used to sell access to the water might be why the author includes the line, "make any sense out of it." Now, I don't think the treasure is hidden at the Hygeia spring, but this line could indicate that the hiding spot is near the West Baden Springs Hotel. The other interesting thing I learned about the hotel is that a popular best-selling novel called So Cold the River by Michael Koryta takes place at the hotel. The book was so popular that it was made into a feature-length movie in 2022 starring Bethany Joy Lenz from One Tree Hill fame. The movie was shot on location at West Baden, and they have showings of the movie in the hotel library there every week. The movie features a possessed bottle of Pluto water that is mysteriously cold and causes whoever drinks it to do terrible things. It's kind of like if The Shining took place in southern Indiana. Now, maybe it's just a coincidence, but the overexposed photo in the chapter looks like it could be a river with ice chunks in it, very similar to the title of the book, So Cold the River. Maybe the author gives a subtle nod to this connection in the last sentence of the chapter when he writes, "I felt the least I could do was share it with you in this book." Anyway, that's all I've got for today's video. In my next video, I'll explain why I think the author starts out the story in New Orleans and how he uses jazz and the jar of flies to get to West Baden.